Welcome to The Explainer. In a world just overflowing with advice, it's so easy to feel pulled in a million different directions at once. So today, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We're going to build a mental toolkit, one designed for navigating modern life by weaving together four powerful and sometimes, contradictory philosophies. I mean, if you've ever felt totally overwhelmed by all the self-help advice out there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We've got these brilliant minds, master strategist Robert Greene, vulnerability researcher Brené Brown, brain coach Jim Kwik, and the pragmatist author Darius Foroux, all telling us how to think, how to act, how to succeed. The only problem, a lot of the time, their advice seems to, clash. So who's right? The answer might not be what you think. All right, let's just dive right in. We're going to build this toolkit from the inside out. That means we're starting with the most fundamental part of it all, our own minds. From there, we'll build a bridge from our thoughts to our actions. Then, we'll learn how to navigate that tricky social world. And finally, we'll get our hands on the ultimate tool that ties everything together, the power of choice. Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here, inside our own heads. Before you can master your actions or your job or your relationships, you have to get a handle on your mindset. Think of it as the foundation. You can't build a skyscraper on shaky ground, right? There's this incredible story about the philosopher William James. As a young guy, he was so depressed that he thought about suicide for months. What pulled him out of it was this single, absolutely revolutionary idea that he could choose his thoughts. And by choosing his thoughts, he could literally choose his reality. Darius Foroux argues this is step one. The absolute first step is just realizing that your thoughts are actually under your control. So if our thoughts really do shape our reality, what's holding us back? Well, brain coach Jim Kwik calls these things iceberg beliefs. They're these deep-seated ideas, a lot of them formed when we were kids, that just hold us back. And he knows this firsthand. After a childhood injury, he literally labeled himself the boy with the broken brain. Kwik says the first, most crucial step to melting these icebergs is just to name them, to look at them and acknowledge that they're there. Okay, so how do we actually do it? How do we reshape these thoughts? Researcher Brené Brown gives us this really practical guide, and it's basically in two parts. First, she says we have to consciously let go of the stuff that's weighing us down. Perfectionism, anxiety, all that. Then we have to actively cultivate the good stuff. Self-compassion, resilience. And the core of all of it, authenticity, which she defines as a simple but courageous choice to just be honest and let our real selves be seen. A powerful mindset is essential, but let's be real, it's pretty useless without execution. So how do we actually translate what's happening in our heads into effective, real-world action? Let's build that bridge from thought to deed. Robert Greene gives us our first big rule for taking action. He argues that showing your point is always more powerful than just talking about it. I mean, think about it. Who's more convincing? The engineer who argues with their boss about a design flaw, or the one who just walks in with a working model that proves it? Words, like Greene says, are slippery. They can be twisted. But actions, they're tangible proof. You just can't deny them. But how do you get consistent? How do you turn one action into a real habit? For that, Jim Kwik has this simple win method. And honestly, the magic is all in that last step, now. By taking one tiny, simple step right away, and I mean tiny, like 2 minutes, you just shatter that cycle of procrastination. It's the feeling of being overwhelmed that stops us, right? But nobody gets overwhelmed by a 2-minute action. It's kind of genius. And this just perfectly captures the whole philosophy of pragmatism that Darius Foroux talks about. Look, knowledge isn't powerful until you use it. The point isn't to just collect a bunch of theories or sit around debating the perfect strategy in your head. The point is to act, to use the knowledge that actually gets you results. Simple as that. Use what works for you. Okay, so we've worked on our mind, we're taking action. Now we step into the most complex environment there is, the social arena. And this is where we face a really critical choice between two very different and often conflicting ways of dealing with other people. And this is where our toolkit gets really interesting. On one side, you've got Robert Greene, who basically tells us to become a master of appearances. In his world, you're the perfect courtier. You carefully manage how people see you, and you make damn sure you never threaten the ego of anyone above you. And then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, you've got Brené Brown, who champions the total opposite, radical authenticity, the courage to be vulnerable and let your true self be seen no matter what anyone else thinks. And this contrast gets even sharper when we talk about asking for help. Greene is totally unsentimental about it. He says, forget about kindness or past favors. If you want something, you have to appeal to the other person's pure, raw self-interest. What's in it for them? But for Brown, asking for help isn't a transaction at all. It's an act of vulnerability. She argues that real, deep connection only happens when we take that risk of sharing our story and our needs. So this forces us to ask a really important question in any social situation. What's my goal here? Am I playing the game of power, where I need to navigate a hierarchy and protect my position? Or am I playing the game of connection, where the real goal is to build a genuine, meaningful relationship? The strategy you use depends entirely on which game you're actually in. And that brings us to the single most important takeaway from all of this. See, it was never about figuring out which philosopher is right and which one is wrong. The ultimate tool, the master key, is understanding that you always have a choice. Real mastery isn't about blindly following one person's playbook. It's about having this diverse toolkit and having the wisdom to know which tool to pull out at the right time. You need Greene's laws to understand how power works. You need Kwik's methods to build habits that stick. You need Brown's insights to build self-worth and real connection. And you need Foroux's pragmatism to tie it all together and actually do something. Sometimes, yeah, you need to be the courtier. And other times you need to be vulnerable. So we end right back where we started, with a choice. Mastery isn't some destination you just arrive at one day. It's the conscious, daily practice of deciding how you're going to engage with your own mind, with your actions, and with the world. You have the tools now. The only question left is, who do you choose to become today?